Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. What If Natsu Had Dual Elements is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. I'd love to do another poll to decide our next project, but unfortunately, due to my travel plans, I won't be able to start a new series until the end of December if we go that route. So instead, I've decided that the series which came in second place in the last poll will be our next project. That means the series replacing What If Natsu Had Dual Elements will be What If Transmigrated into One Piece and Became a Marine. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 301, This Throne Might Just Be Mine. No, I honestly have no objections. Reshiram stood aloof and proud behind Dylan, his deep blue eyes calm and emotionless. His elegant figure looked like a living work of art. To him, this rainbow-colored Getsus was just noisy. What a joke. Didn't they know he was the good-looking one of the family? Did he really need to fight? He only needed to be responsible for looking beautiful. As for fighting and killing, that was the other brother's job. He was the beloved little brother in Dylan's family, okay? So that's how it is. Looks like Mr. Getsus isn't convinced. Hearing this, Dylan paused thoughtfully. It seemed that this rainbow-colored Mr. Getsus wasn't too happy about how his Zekrom had been defeated by Mutwo. In that case, let's try this. Dylan nodded and opened another Pokeball. Roar! The deafening roar of the strongest dragon on land shook the air, bringing with it a fierce and icy chill. Rainbow Getsus was stunned. Was that Kyurem, the ice dragon? Just who was this kid? Even though he ruled his own world, even he didn't dare provoke Kyurem. Because sending Zekrom against Kyurem was basically suicide. Kyurem, can you fuse with that black dragon? Dylan gave Rainbow Getsus a polite, friendly smile, then turned to Kyurem. We share the same origin, but we're still somewhat different. It's worth a try. Kyurem's terrifying golden eyes fixed on the battered, half-buried Zekrom. A deep telepathic voice rang out. Then go ahead and eat him, Dylan said without hesitation. Wait. Young man. Rainbow Getsus panicked. Of course he understood what Dylan meant. This couldn't be allowed. I think we can talk this through. Rainbow Getsus couldn't accept losing Zekrom. Without him, how could he realize his ambitions? Never mind liberating all the worlds, without Zekrom, he wouldn't even be safe returning to his own. Don't worry, Mr. Getsus. Dylan raised a finger to his lips. Could you please be quiet now? Otherwise my Mutwo might get upset. Dylan tilted his head, smiling like a gentle breeze. But Rainbow Getsus felt an icy chill crawl up his spine. Mutwo was already watching him from midair, eyes locked on him without him noticing. Rainbow Getsus' face twisted in fear, not daring to make a move. That terrifying Mutwo could probably tear him apart with a flick of psychic power. That's more like it. We'll talk later. For now. Dylan grinned and looked at Kyurem. Alright then, go ahead, Kyurem. Roar! Kyurem raised his head and roared. Light flared at the tips of his icy wings. Beams of light shot out like lightning, flying straight toward the weakened Zekrom. Zekrom sensed the beams approaching. Of course he knew what they were, and he immediately tried to get up and escape. But he still couldn't move. An invisible force, heavy as a mountain, pinned him down. Mutwo's psychic power. The beams struck Zekrom, digging into his body. He let out a pained growl as his massive black form was dragged rapidly toward Kyurem. Under Rainbow Getsus' darkening expression, Zekrom was slowly wrapped in light, shrinking until he became a glowing orb that sank into Kyurem's body. A powerful shockwave erupted from Kyurem's form, black and blue lightning crackling around him. His shape began to shift rapidly within the storm of energy. Seeing this, Reshiram couldn't help swallowing hard. instinctively backing away a few steps to stay far from Kurum. He was worried Kurum might get too carried away and try to eat him too. Roar! A deep, dominating roar tore through the sky. Dark Kurum emerged from the light and landed heavily on the ground. His intense aura spread out wildly like a storm, and tangible white frost drifted from his body. Not bad. Dylan looked at the new Dark Kurum with satisfaction. There was no doubt Kurum was much stronger now than before. Though he'd been able to shift into Dark Kurum before, he hadn't actually devoured a black dragon. That form had always been imperfect. Now that he'd truly fused with Zekrom, it was only natural that his power had increased dramatically. A gift-wrapped Zekrom, how could he not accept? Watching his Zekrom get forcibly fused, Rainbow Gets's face turned completely black. But Dylan didn't care at all. How do you feel, Kurum? Excellent, Dylan. Let me devour the white dragon too. If I return to my original, complete dragon god form, I can surely reach a whole new level, Dark Kurum said with excitement through his deep mental voice. He felt amazing, so this was what fusion felt like. Unable to resist, he turned his golden eyes toward the pretty white dragon. Rishirum's feathers stood on end. He glared angrily, puffing up with indignation, but his body betrayed him. He ducked behind Dylan, even though Dylan was way too small to actually hide him. What do you think, Reshiram? Dylan asked with a laugh, glancing back at him. No way. That's not okay. Dylan, you're supposed to be my hero. Reshiram was furious. This ice dragon was insatiable. He had already eaten a black dragon, and now he was eyeing his body too? What are you scared of? We've got the gene contract. It's not like you can't come back out afterward. Dark Kurum couldn't hold it in. This white dragon was just too real cowardly. Kurum was almost embarrassed to be related to him. They came from the same origin, after all. Since they were both Dylan's partners, Kurum knew Dylan wouldn't actually let him devour Reshiram, but temporary fusion? Totally doable. Just like how Necrozma could fuse with Lunala to become Dawn Wings form, then go further into its ultimate form. He could fuse with Reshiram and enter the True Flame White form, and with the gene contract, they could always separate again. Now that he had already fused with Zekrom, if he added Reshiram to the mix, his chances of returning to his original form, the true dragon god of Unova, were very high. To become Dragon God Kurum. This big brother's throne? I might just be able to take it. Reshiram hesitated. Kurum wasn't wrong, technically. But just the thought of entering Kurum's body made his whole being squirm in discomfort. He wasn't like that shameless bat Lunala, who went from resisting fusion to being proud of it. Forget it. We'll try it another time. Dylan smoothed things over and turned to Rainbow Getsus. Mr. Getsus, sorry to keep you waiting. Now, may I ask you to hand over all your Pokémon? Dylan was still as courteous as ever. After all, unlike the Getsus of this world, the bosses of Team Rainbow Rocket were all champion-level trainers. Even without Zekrom, Rainbow Getsus still had strong Pokémon. They couldn't let him keep them. With a mind like his, he'd definitely cause trouble. But upon hearing Dylan's request, Rainbow Getsus' face fell. Without Pokémon, wouldn't he be completely at someone else's mercy? No way would he accept being so vulnerable. Young man. You're going too far. Rainbow Getsus growled, barely holding back his rage. Too far? I don't think so. Dylan chuckled lightly. He knew Getsus wouldn't hand them over willingly, but that was fine. Mutwo. Mutwo Y vanished in a flash, and before Rainbow Getsus could react, the psychic Pokémon was right in front of him. Crap. Rainbow Getsus realized too late that something was wrong. Mutwo Y's glowing blue eyes locked onto him, and his own gaze turned dazed. Hypnosis. 5 Pokeballs floated from Rainbow Getsus and drifted over to Dylan. Dylan took out a box and placed them inside. Now, Getsus had no means of resistance. Big brother, who is this guy? Lily asked, staring at the now hypnotized Rainbow Getsus in confusion. She had her suspicions, but it was still hard to believe. A parallel world Sketsis, most likely. He probably came here to invade our world. Dylan looked at the dazed man standing in place. You guys should realize it now, this universe is vast. There are parallel worlds. Maybe there's one where you, Lily, are going to school with a bunch of friends. Dylan smiled gently. The parallel timelines in the Pokemon universe really were a mystery. Eh? Lily blinked in surprise. Good thing you intercepted him, Dylan. If he'd gotten loose with Zekrom, it would have been a real disaster. Blue frowned slightly. Dylan had taken down Rainbow Getsus with ease, but that didn't mean Getsus was weak. He was, after all, a champion-level trainer with Zekrom. If he'd slipped into the real world and acted from the shadows, he'd have been a major threat. Exactly. Luzaman nodded in agreement. This matter really does need to be taken seriously. There may be others who use Ultra Space to come to our world. Dylan considered the situation. Since Rainbow Getsus came through first, Rainbow Giovanni and the others were bound to follow. Someone would need to keep an eye on Ultra Space. If they really did arrive, Dylan wouldn't be afraid, but finding them once they went into hiding would be difficult. No rushing this. Compared to Team Rainbow Rocket, Dylan was more concerned about this world's Necrozma. If he could capture Necrozma, then with both Dawnwings and Duskmane forms, he'd be set. Chapter 302, Go defeat that Necrozma. Ultra Megalopolis. This name referred both to the space itself and the name of a city. Ultra Megalopolis was the only remaining city in this world, and in the games, it was the homeland of the Ultra Recon Squad. After some time, Dylan and the others finally located the city. From afar, they could already see the dark city's center, where a towering structure blazed with brilliant light. The Ultra Megalopolis Tower. It was the only luminous structure in this dark world, and a piece of ancient technology used by the people of Ultra Megalopolis to seal away Necrozma. White Dragon Reshiram and Lunala landed, and the four of them headed toward the Ultra Megalopolis Tower. The entire city was pitch black. The buildings were massive, like towering black pillars with sharp edges. The walls were made of reflective materials. The purpose of these materials was to reflect and amplify the light and heat emitted by the Ultra Megalopolis Tower, to make the most out of the limited light available. That alone showed how desperate this world had become. Light, so common in the daylight of the real world, had become a priceless treasure here. But Dylan could only say they brought this on themselves. If not for the greed of the ancient Ultra Megalopolis people, this world wouldn't have ended up like this, on the brink of destruction. The four of them admired this alien city as they made their way toward the tower. Just as they neared the Ultra Megalopolis Tower, two figures suddenly appeared. Stop! Who are you? It was a man and a woman, both dressed in white suits resembling protective gear, tightly sealed. The only exposed part of their bodies was their faces, which were an unhealthy, sickly pale. It wasn't the healthy fairness of skin, but the unsettling paleness of someone who had never seen sunlight. Dylan recognized them at a glance. They were the leaders of the Ultra Recon Squad, Fico and Soliera. They were natives of Ultra Megalopolis. In the games, they had traveled through space to Alola to investigate its aura phenomena in hopes of saving their city. Locals. Lily's eyes lit up. These two were clearly different from them. These were actual aliens. Locals, huh? Where are you from? Fico examined the four of them. Not just their clothing, but their healthy skin alone proved they weren't from Ultra Megalopolis. We're from Alola. It's a pleasure to meet you both, Dylan replied warmly. Though it had been the greed of their ancestors that brought ruin to this world, the sins of the past had already been paid for by the descendants. The world was already dying. Fico and Soliera were innocent, and unlike Team Rainbow Rocket, they weren't driven by ambition. They had always just wanted to save Ultra Megalopolis, and in the games, they even helped the protagonist. The pleasure is ours, Fico and Soliera greeted them with a customary Ultra Megalopolis gesture. We're terribly sorry, visitors from afar, but as you can see, our world no longer has the vitality to welcome guests. Fico looked regretful. They had visitors from another world, yet they couldn't even be proper hosts. 2 of our comrades also went to your world. What a coincidence. Faiko had heard of Alola, it was the destination of their teammates Dulce and Zasi. According to their reports, Alola was a sunny, vibrant world where people captured Pokemon in Pokeballs to train them. It was the opposite of their tech-based society. Dulce had even proposed cooperating with the people of Alola and sending trainers to Ultra Megalopolis to battle or subdue Necrozma. But that plan hadn't materialized yet. No problem. I wonder if you'd allow us to enter the tower. My partner says there's a very powerful Pokemon inside. Is that right? Dylan smiled, glancing at the tower. Faiko and Soliera's expressions changed at once. There was no doubt Dylan was talking about Necrozma. But should they let this person in? Soliera looked to Faiko, whose expression shifted with hesitation. No need to worry, we mean you no harm. Honestly, your world is already beyond saving. We've seen a lot on the way here. This city is all that's left, right? If I may ask, how many of your people are still alive? Dylan looked at Faiko as he spoke. I don't know what kind of solutions you're hoping for, but in this dark world, saving it is a pipe dream. Even if it's possible, it's not something your generation can achieve. The Ultra Megalopolis world was already rotten. After so many years without sunlight, besides Poipole and Naganadel and Faiko's group, were there even any other life forms? And to believe Necrozma could be freed to save this world was even more absurd. Who caused Necrozma's suffering in the first place? The people of Ultra Megalopolis. They not only stole its light, they sealed it away for generations. Just check Necrozma's Pokédex entries and you'd see how savage it had become. Light seemed to be its source of energy, it constantly fired lasers and was extremely violent. Base form. It devoured Solgalio's light and lunged at enemies, using the claws on its back and limbs to tear them apart. Dusk Mane. It devoured Lunala's light and used massive claws to grab and rip enemies apart. Dawn Wings. Clearly, Necrozma's current behavior was savage and brutal. But once upon a time, Necrozma was revered as the radiant deity by the people of Ultra Megalopolis. It had given life to this world. What changed? Pokemon have emotions and willpower, especially legendary ones. The people of Ultra Megalopolis betrayed Necrozma and sealed it away. Is it any wonder that it's become so violent? Faiko's eyes dimmed. Dylan's words were bleak, but he knew they were true. Move to Alola. The people of the Ultra Plant world next door have already migrated to other planets. Abandoning your home may be painful, but as long as your people survive, there's hope. Dylan continued. His suggestion wasn't just out of sympathy. Faiko and Soliera possessed high-level tech from Ultra Megalopolis and could be valuable allies in monitoring ultra space disturbances. If anything emerged in Alola, they could sound the alarm. But, would your people accept us? Soliera asked softly. They could send their remaining people to Alola, but would the locals there really accept them? They will. Alola always welcomes friendly guests. As long as you don't pose a threat to our people, you'll be fine. Luzaman stepped in. She didn't care much about the numbers. Alola could handle them. Of course, that was assuming these people were genuinely friendly. After all, from what Dylan had told her, the people of Ultra Megalopolis did have a checkered past. In the name of the radiant deity, we swear we will never harm the people of Alola, Faiko said solemnly, raising his hand. He had made up his mind. There was only death awaiting them here. But in Alola, his people could survive, perhaps even thrive. Dylan's eyelid twitched. Really? Swearing in Necrozma's name? But he knew Faiko and the others were trustworthy. All right, then. Get ready. Once you arrive in Alola, head to Ether Paradise. I'll take you in and assign you work, Luzaman said, asserting her authority as the president of the Ether Foundation. Thank you so much. Soliera, go inform the others. Faiko bowed deeply, then turned to Soliera. Yes. Soliera ran off excitedly. Everyone. Faiko looked like he wanted to say more, but suddenly realized he didn't even know their names. I'm Dylan. Nice to meet you, Dylan smiled and introduced himself, then introduced Lily and the others. I'm FICO, leader of the Ultra Recon Squad. Though I suppose the team doesn't have much purpose anymore, FICO chuckled. Well then, let's go take a look. Dylan turned toward the glowing Ultra Megalopolis Tower. He could already feel the gentle vibration of a pokeball on his belt. With FICO leading the way, the five of them ascended the building and eventually reached the top floor. The top of Ultra Megalopolis Tower was a vast platform. At the very front, a crystal stood in a point of light. Inside the crystal was a pitch-black Pokemon. It really is Necrozma. Lily gasped, covering her mouth, eyes wide with shock. It was Necrozma. Though its color was different from her brother's, its shape was identical. Necrozma? Luzaman raised an eyebrow and looked at her daughter. Leaf curiously examined the Pokemon sealed in the crystal. She knew about Necrozma, but this was her first time seeing one in person. Mother, you don't know Necrozma is my brother's true ace. Its power, it's beyond words. Lily recalled that silvery gray Ultra Necrozma. Kyurem was strong, sure. But even a wild Kyurem that had transformed couldn't last long against Ultra Necrozma. Lily had been with Dylan for a long time and had seen many legendary Pokemon. But in her opinion, there probably wasn't any Pokemon in the world that could match Ultra Necrozma. Mr. Dylan, what do you plan to do? FICO looked complicatedly at Necrozma, then turned to Dylan. He could tell Dylan was the leader of this group. Wake it up, of course. Dylan chuckled softly. This wild Necrozma was the main reason he came to Ultra Space. But to capture it, he'd probably need to fight first. Which one of you wants to go? Dylan asked his Pokemon through the family network. White Dragon Reshiram, Dylan, can I come out and strike a cool pose? Gotta make a good impression on our new second brother. Cute.jpg. Big Bat Lunala, ugh, not another one using my stuff again. Laughing hysterically.jpg. Little Turtle Terrapagos, wah, I don't like fighting, I'm too cute for that. Seriousface.jpg. Koraidon, can't win. Not fighting. Miraidon, +1. Shiny Necrozma, don't wanna fight my own kind. Kyurem, useless, the lot of you. Mutwo's not here. Rayquaza, you go take down that Necrozma. Rayquaza, confused black guy.jpg. Chapter 303, our dragon type is unstoppable. Rayquaza was completely dumbfounded. It just wanted to take a nap. Why did it, an innocent flying green caterpillar, have to fight one of Big Bro's own species? Rayquaza, ahem, maybe you should take this one, second bro? Rayquaza voiced its thoughts tactfully. After all, it was just a little Rayquaza, only 2,000 or 3,000 years old. Even if it had just learned Dragon Ascent, going up against Necrozma, that was still asking a bit much. Rayquaza felt like this wasn't fair at all. Kyurem, don't embarrass us dragons, Rayquaza. That Necrozma doesn't even look strong. Don't be scared. Killit.jpg. Rayquaza, but the problem is. Rayquaza hesitated. Kyurem wasn't wrong. This Necrozma had been sealed away and hadn't even absorbed Lunala. Forget Ultra form, it couldn't even reach its Dawnwings form. If it Mega Evolved, it should be able to defeat this Necrozma easily. But the issue was, what if this Necrozma was the vengeful type? They were going to be living together from now on, constantly crossing paths. If it left a bad impression and Necrozma kept looking to settle scores, that would be a real headache. Wait a second, was that why that little punk Terrapagos and the current second bro, the Ice Dragon, weren't stepping up? After all, Mutwo wasn't around, and the White Dragon crew wasn't strong enough. The only ones who could handle Necrozma right now were the four of them. Shiny Necrozma didn't want to fight its own. Terrapagos was pretending not to notice. Kyurem refused to budge. That just left Rayquaza. Damn it! Rayquaza cursed to itself. Picking on the youngest, huh? Well, it had backers too. Kyurem, we dragons are the strongest. Unbreakable. Resilient. Invincible. Invincible.jpg. Reshiram, go get M, 4th bro. Charge.jpg. Lunala, 4th bro, you're so strong and cool. Koraden, 4th bro is unbeatable. Our dragon type is invincible. Terrapagos, Rayquaza's so handsome. You got this, good luck. Shiny Necrozma, good luck. Rayquaza, forcesmile.jpg. Seriously, did any of you even ask how I feel? Then it's settled. Rayquaza, it's you. Seeing the decision was made, Dylan flipped his hand and tossed a pokeball. A flash of white light, and a dark red Rayquaza slowly lowered its head from the sky, its majestic, indifferent dragon eyes surveying the ground below. A massive, powerful draconic aura surged through the top floor of the Ultra-Megalopolis Tower, making the very air feel heavy. The legendary Sky Dragon, Rayquaza. Luzaman was stunned. Dylan had even captured Rayquaza? She had heard of the legendary Rayquaza from Hoenn, but she never imagined she'd see it with her own eyes. And it was truly awe-inspiring. That dark red dragon body, like dried blood, was terrifying in its unnatural beauty. Paiwan also stared in awe. What a powerful Pokémon. Rayquaza doesn't look too happy though? Lily tilted her head in confusion. Normally, when Rayquaza appeared, it would roar like the ice dragon always did. But this time, nothing. Rayquaza, Dragon Pulse. Dylan looked at the crystal ceiling Necrozma and snapped his fingers with a grin. Roar! Rayquaza gathered itself. It wasn't exactly thrilled about this task, but since it was already here. Rayquaza opened its mouth and fired a fierce, draconic energy wave straight at Necrozma's position. Boom! A massive shockwave tore into the sky, violent winds swirling as dust filled the air. Rayquaza flicked its tail, whipping up a gust that blew away the smoke, revealing the condition of the crystal to Dylan and the others. Deep cracks had formed across the crystal's surface, and as if reacting to the change, Necrozma's previously lifeless head inside the crystal began to glow with a shimmering iridescence. Lee-no, a low growl echoed in everyone's ears. Lee-no. The growl turned fierce the next second. Bang! The crystal shattered. The black prism Pokémon unfurled its massive claws and began to float. Necrozma had broken free. The Radiant God. Staring at the pitch-black Pokémon, Paiwan wore a complex expression. A storm of emotions stirred inside her. Everyone in Ultra-Megalopolis knew the truth. They felt deep guilt toward Necrozma, the Radiant God. After all, what their ancestors had done was a disgrace. Their current suffering was the consequence of that sin. Rayquaza's dragon eyes locked onto the ferocious-looking Necrozma. Yep, this was its future second bro. Congratulations on regaining your freedom, Necrozma, Dylan said with a gentle smile. Necrozma slowly lowered its head, its shimmering parts flickering. Even with a chaotic mind and writhing pain from the absence of light, it still sensed something strange about this human. That aura, so familiar yet unfamiliar, and so much light. Lee-no. Necrozma let out a low roar and charged toward Dylan like a cannonball. It needed light. Light was its energy, its source of life. Without it, it suffered every moment. Seeing Necrozma charging, Dylan raised an eyebrow. Yep, its mind really wasn't stable. Roar! Rayquaza roared, slamming down with its glowing green tail. Dragon-type move, Dragon Ascent. Boom! The devastating attack slammed into Necrozma midair, bursting with brilliant green light and knocking it back. Sigh. Guess we really do have to fight first. Dylan chuckled softly, then turned to Rayquaza. Rayquaza reared back and let out a mighty roar. Its body lit up with a rainbow glow, growing longer and thicker, elegant streams of light trailing behind. Mega Rayquaza. Mega Rayquaza locked its eyes on Necrozma. Its overwhelming presence dominated the air, its dark red body exuding a terrifying pressure. Lee-no. Even in its confused pain, Necrozma sensed this immense threat and growled furiously. Mega Rayquaza's face didn't change. "Why are you shouting at me? I didn't want to fight either." Necrozma hesitated, agitated. It didn't want to fight Mega Rayquaza, but that dragon was blocking its path to the human. If it wanted that light, it had to get past Rayquaza. Golden energy surged, photon geyser. A golden beam shot toward Mega Rayquaza. The majestic dragon twisted its body, easily dodging it. "Dragon Ascent," Dylan commanded. Mega Rayquaza streaked across the sky, green light bursting from its body. Several sparkling gems formed around Necrozma, rock-type power gems. Laser-like beams shot out. But Mega Rayquaza surged forward at high speed. Boom! The green light blade of Dragon Ascent sliced through the sky, cutting through all the beams in its path. The momentum didn't stop, it slammed into Necrozma, carving across its body. Necrozma howled in pain. Dragon Ascent had landed hard. Dragon Ascent again. After the clean hit, Mega Rayquaza raised its tail, wrapped in green light, and slammed it down hard on Necrozma's back. Boom! The impact exploded. Dragon-type energy erupted, smashing Necrozma straight into the ground. Dragon Pulse. Mega Rayquaza opened its mouth again and blasted another fierce draconic beam at the fallen Necrozma. Boom! The Dragon Pulse exploded, shaking the air. Necrozma shrieked in pain. After taking 3 straight hits, it was clearly badly hurt. When the dust cleared, Necrozma struggled to lift its claws and tried to stand again. "Stop fighting. You can't beat Mega Rayquaza in your current state," Dylan advised gently. Having just broken free, Necrozma was deeply weakened by lack of light. Against Solgaleo or Lunala, it might have had a chance, but not Mega Rayquaza. This fight was too one-sided. Dylan had no intention of dragging it out. This wasn't a gym battle. "No." Necrozma roared again, its mind a bit clearer after all those hits. But its strength had dropped even more. It had been sealed for so long without absorbing any light. Breaking out had only made things worse. "I understand how you feel. But holding on to hatred won't change anything." Dylan opened another Pokeball, and a shiny Necrozma appeared. "Necrozma, there's 2 of them?" Phi-1 was stunned, eyes darting between the 2 Necrozmas. 2 radiant gods? Even Necrozma was dazed, its shimmering body flickering wildly as it stared blankly at the shiny version. Wait, there were others like it? Why didn't it know? No wonder the human had that strange familiar aura, it came from its kin. Necrozma. Shiny Necrozma understood Dylan's intention. It floated in front of Necrozma, extending a giant claw. Light particles drifted into its weakened counterpart. Shiny Necrozma was sharing some of its light to ease its kin's pain. No. The shimmering parts of Necrozma glowed brighter. Absorbing that light significantly improved its state. Its aura shifted from fury and confusion to a clearer calm. It still wasn't at its peak, but at least the pain was gone. That alone was a huge relief. This world has been dark for too long. Whether or not you seek revenge, this place isn't where you belong anymore. Dylan spoke calmly to Necrozma. And besides, it's been a long time. The humans who hurt you, they're long dead. Humans were different from Pokemon. Unless they were special, most barely lived a century, how could they compare to Necrozma? Necrozma's shimmering head dimmed, lost in thought. Its aura still carried resentment. Come with us. I can take you somewhere with more light, Dylan finally said. Necrozma looked at him, then turned to its kin. Shiny Necrozma gave it a gentle nod. Seeing this, Necrozma hesitated. The human might be trustworthy, but that dragon had just hit it so damn hard. Damn it. If it weren't for the light shortage, it wouldn't have lost. That dragon humiliated it in front of its own kind. This grudge won't be forgotten. But Necrozma quickly pushed the thought aside, turning to look at shiny Necrozma. That blue body so different from its own. It smelled so good. So beautiful. So stunning.
Chapter 304, I'll Do Anything.
With shiny Necrozma playing the role of a stunning mule, it didn't take long for Dylan to successfully tame the other Necrozma. After all, Dylan had already proven his overwhelming strength. Add in the persuasion of its own kin and the promise of more light, and the wild Necrozma agreed to follow him temporarily. Of course, Dylan completely ignored the temporarily part. Join the family and expect to leave? Dream on. Now it was perfect golden Ultra Necrozma on the left, silver gray Ultra Necrozma on the right. Two dazzling bodyguard stallions, absolutely unstoppable. With Necrozma secured, there was no longer any reason to remain in Ultra space. They had gained plenty, the Ultra beasts were basically all caught. Lunala opened an Ultra wormhole, and Dylan, his group, and the native Ultra Megalopolis residents, including FICO, returned to the regular world. President Luzaman, I'll leave the arrangements for FICO and the others to you, Dylan said at Ether Paradise. Don't worry, Dylan. Luzaman smiled back. This Ultra space journey had brought her all the Ultra beasts she'd dreamed of collecting. She had no more lingering obsessions. And most importantly, she had mended things with Lily. Mother and daughter had reconciled, and Luzaman couldn't be happier. She was grateful to Dylan, but also deeply awed by him. Anyone this powerful and terrifying, how could one not fear him? She could also tell that Dylan seemed to care about FICO and his people. That made this task even more important for her. Dylan, I heard from Lily. May I have the honor of inviting your parents to dinner? I want to thank them in person for taking care of Lily. Luzaman hesitated, then asked earnestly. It was only proper that she thank Dylan's parents. After all, they were now Lily's godparents. Of course, I'll speak to them, Dylan nodded without refusing. Great, I'll have someone prepare everything. Luzaman smiled and stepped aside to make some calls. So? Are you finally at ease now? Dylan turned to Lily with a grin. Thank you, big brother. Lily beamed, her delicate face lighting up. She nodded vigorously like a pecking chick. Of course she was happy. The problems with her family were resolved perfectly. From now on, she wouldn't have to worry about her mother being in danger anymore. Dylan then called Ito and Amelia to let them know everything had been settled, and that Luzaman wished to invite them to dinner. The two discussed it and agreed. They liked Lily, a sweet, well-mannered girl, and it made sense to meet her biological mother. Once things were settled, everyone rested at Luzaman's estate. After letting Dylan's group settle in, Luzaman quietly slipped away alone. I wonder where Gladion is now. I need to ask Mother to find him. Lily sat on the sofa, blinking as she suddenly remembered her real brother. Now that her mother had returned to her kind self, Gladion would surely be just as happy. Oh right, I forgot you had a real brother. Leaf blinked in surprise. She had just been deciding which Ultra Beast to focus on training. Dylan had given her one of the ones she liked best, so now she was stuck with the happy dilemma of choosing which to raise first. After thinking it over, she figured it was best to ask Dylan for a recommendation. Where's Dylan? Leaf glanced to the side and noticed he was gone. I think he went to the bathroom, Lily said, tilting her head. At that moment, deep in the basement of the estate, Luzaman stood in a hidden chamber, holding pokeballs containing the Ultra Beasts, her face twisted with joy and excitement. Her usually pale skin now looked disturbingly unhealthy. My collection is finally complete. She was ecstatic. Ever since her husband Moan disappeared while researching Ultra Beasts, her mind had been slipping. Collecting Ultra Beasts had become her obsession. And now, she finally had them. It was perfect. Luzaman quickly composed herself and looked at the crystalline display pillars before her, each holding a Pokemon frozen alive for display. Tisk, President Luzaman, I didn't expect this side of you. A voice cut through the silence, startling her. Her pupils lost their light as she whipped around. Who's there? Her voice was cold as ice. This collection room was her most tightly kept secret. If anyone found out, it would ruin her. But when she saw who was standing there, her pupils shrank.
Dylan.
Oh, I'd noticed something strange about how you left earlier, so I followed.
Didn't expect to stumble across this. Dylan walked over leisurely to a cryogenically frozen Wigglytuff, his tone oddly amused.
To think the famous President Luzaman, champion of loving Pokemon and protector of the injured, actually does this in private, freezing Pokemon alive for your viewing pleasure.
Ha!
He clucked his tongue, casting a sideways glance at her.
Luzaman had a wonderful reputation in Alola, and why? Because Ether Paradise's mission was to protect wounded Pokemon.
Everyone believed she was full of kindness and love. But no one could have imagined that she was secretly a twisted collector who preserved the Pokemon she loved by freezing them alive. This was no longer the behavior of a rational person, it was a window into her deep-seated sickness.
Dylan, I can explain. Luzaman's face went pale.
She hadn't expected Dylan to discover this.
If this were exposed, she didn't dare imagine the consequences. She had just achieved her dream of collecting the Ultra Beasts.
She had just reconciled with her beloved daughter.
Explain? President Luzaman, you must be joking. The evidence is right in front of me, what's left to explain? Dylan sneered.
Luzaman clenched her fists, her expression grim and lifeless.
If the League learns of this, they won't let you go, President Luzaman, Dylan said calmly. Or better yet, what if Lily finds out? If your daughter knew her mother was someone who freezes innocent Pokemon alive just to admire them, how would she react? Would you really want Lily to be completely disillusioned with you? To hate you?
At this moment, Dylan was like a devil.
No, please, don't do that. Luzaman gritted her teeth. This couldn't happen. Don't do what? Dylan asked, lips curling upward.
Don't tell anyone about this, please, Dylan, I'll do anything, Luzaman said at last, lips trembling.
If this secret got out, her life would be over.
She'd lose everything, be arrested by the League, and her children, they'd abandon her. It was more than she could bear.
And this was Dylan.
She knew perfectly well she had no leverage in front of him. If you weren't Lily's mother and still useful to me, I'd have turned you in already.
Dylan shook his head.
He knew she understood exactly what that meant.
Defrost all of these Pokemon.
Take care of them properly. He looked at the frozen Pokemon. They were still alive. If thawed and treated, they could recover.
Yes. Luzaman obeyed without hesitation.
She had no other choice. Now that we've figured out everything about the Ultra Beasts, organize the data and submit it to the Kanto League. Then apply to establish the Alola League.
Dylan paused a moment, then gave the order. Luzaman's brows furrowed slightly. The Alola League.
If she remembered right, Kukui had applied several times without success.
Dylan. I mean, Mr. Dylan, do you think Kanto will approve it?
Noticing Dylan's look, she quickly changed her wording. Just call me Dylan in front of others, he said casually.
And yes, they will. The Pokemon League has never ignored Alola.
The only reason they haven't set up a branch here was the unknown nature of the Ultra Beasts.
But now that I've uncovered all their secrets, President Damarangi won't say no. Once it's approved, you'll apply to be the president of the Alola League. I understand. Luzaman's eyes lit up. The president of the Alola League? That was a position she never even dreamed of before. With your reputation and credentials, you're more than qualified. There aren't many in Alola who could compete with you. Win over Kukui and the island Kahunas. That shouldn't be hard for you. Dylan had no doubt about her ability.
Luzaman was highly capable not just as a trainer, but as a strategist. She had built Ether Foundation into what it was today. And now that he had leverage over her, having her run the Alola League under his control was ideal.
I'll take care of it. Ambition burned in Luzaman's eyes.
Her obsession with Ultra Beasts may have ended, but now she had a new goal. Becoming the head of the Alola League, she would be standing among the most powerful figures in the world.
It was perfect.
Also, look for strong trainers in Alola to appoint. I'll check later to see if I can recommend better candidates.
Dylan thought of the original Alola Elite Four from the games and fell silent.
He began weighing his own options to see if he had better candidates. After all, Alola didn't need to surpass Kanto, but it was his backyard now, it had to be respectable.
Chapter 305, Delibird? After securing Luzumon, Dylan began pondering Alola's future development.
The World Championships were coming next year, an excellent opportunity for Alola to make its mark.
It might not yet rival Kanto, but outperforming other regions? Definitely possible.
Besides, both Ito and Amelia really liked Alola, and since Lily was a native too, turning Alola into their home turf sounded like a solid plan.
Allocate funding and equipment to FICO.
Have him monitor Ultra Space.
If there's any anomaly, report to me immediately, Dylan instructed Luzumon. The Rainbow Rocket threat was no joke. Understood, Luzumon replied.
She knew exactly what he meant. Rainbow Colress had already proven how real the danger was. She, too, feared what might come crawling out of Ultra Space next. If another boss or two suddenly popped out, at least with Dylan around, they'd stand a chance.
What's your plan for the Alola League? Dylan asked. I'll contact Professor Kukui and the Island Kahunas tomorrow.
I'll invite them for a meeting and show them the Ultra Beast data first, Luzumon said after a moment of thought. To become the Alola League president, she needed the support of Alola's key figures, the 4 island kings and queens, and of course, Professor Kukui. Ether Foundation had been researching Ultra Beasts all along, though secretly. Still, Kukui and the others must have heard whispers.
Now that the truth was laid bare, sharing their findings would demonstrate goodwill and transparency. Good thinking, Dylan nodded approvingly. All right, could you have someone help me gather intel on this Pokemon? Dylan pulled up a Pokemon's profile on the Rotom Dex and turned it to Luzumon. If you get any leads, let me know. Leave it to me. Evening soon arrived, and Ito and Amelia came to Ether Paradise. Everyone enjoyed a peaceful dinner together. With Lily's family matters resolved, Dylan wasn't in a rush to leave Alola. He and Leaf planned to spend a couple of relaxing days here. Lily, wanting to enjoy her newly restored relationship with her mother, chose to stay with Luzumon at Ether Paradise for a while. Luzumon had already contacted Kukui and the others to discuss the formation of the Alola League. Kukui was beyond excited. 2 days later, somewhere deep in Melee Island's forest, Dylan and Leaf had been wandering for quite a while. Hey Dylan, did you hear? There's a rumor going around Kanto champion Lance is missing, Leaf said excitedly, eyes glued to her phone under the brim of a sun hat. Even while vacationing in Alola, Leaf made sure not to miss a single Kanto headline, especially the juicy gossip. Lance is missing? Dylan raised an eyebrow with interest. Come to think of it, it had been a while since anyone had seen the Dragon Master since his trip to Unova. Yup. No one's seen him in over 2 weeks. Word is, he hasn't been at Indigo Plateau at all, Leaf added, blinking those curious big eyes. After the Saffron incident, Team Rocket had been wiped out. Sure, some remnants remained, but they were barely scraping by. Team Rocket was history, but in such a peaceful time, Lance suddenly disappeared? Interesting, Dylan mused. He hadn't been keeping tabs on Lance recently. Maybe he went to Johto to finish off Rocket's leftovers? But if that were the case, there should have been some sign. He'd have to ask President Charles back in Kanto. Lance was, after all, a senior champion. He had to be taken seriously. Dylan and Leaf continued deeper into the forest. Soon, they reached a small clearing. Found it at last. Dylan's smile widened as he spotted the yellow Pokemon perched atop a tree stump, munching an apple. The Pokemon noticed them too and stood up warily, alert and on guard. This is the Pokemon you were looking for? Leaf asked curiously. It resembled a bipedal feline, with blue paw pads and black lightning patterns over sleek black and blue fur, a very stylish Pokemon. That's right. I asked Luzumon to help find it. And here it is, Zeraora. Dylan approached with a calm smile, while the Rotom Dex floated next to Leaf, scanning. BZZT Zeraora. Electric type. Thunderclap Pokemon. Ability, Volt Absorb.
Notable moves: Plasma Fists, Wild Charge, Discharge, Thunder Punch, Volt Switch, Slash. Dex entry: it charges its claws with electricity to tear foes apart. Even if its attacks miss, the stray sparks can still paralyze.
Exactly, it was the mythical Pokemon, Zeraora. As Dylan neared, Zeraora growled low in warning, baring its fangs slightly. Its expression turned fierce, clearly signaling Dylan to stop. Easy, relax. I'm not here to hurt you.
Dylan halted, his voice soft and reassuring.
He released a wave of Viridian energy. The natural aura seemed to calm Zeraora.
Though still wary, it eased up significantly.
I came here to find you, Zeraora. Living here alone must get lonely, right? I'd like to be your partner. Dylan offered with an earnest smile. Zeraora looked at him knowingly, clearly not the first trainer to try this pitch.
It had been in the area a long time, surely someone else had stumbled upon it and challenged it.
Sighing in a strangely human-like way, Zeraora leapt down from the stump and assumed a battle stance.
It didn't mind Dylan's aura, but if he wanted to capture it, he'd have to earn it.
If you can't beat me, how are you worthy to stand beside me?
I like your attitude, Dylan said, raising an eyebrow. This was exactly his kind of Pokemon, one who believed in strength above all.
All right then. You're up.
Dylan pulled a Pokeball from his belt and tossed it.
Pheromosa, let's battle. Mellow.
A slim, elegant figure emerged, standing gracefully in front of Dylan, eyes narrowed with regal disdain.
It was the Ultra Beast, Pheromosa. Zeraora growled, eyes sharp. It could tell this one was strong.
Show me your power, Zeraora, Dylan said, loosening his collar with a smirk.
Battle text remains unchanged for brevity. Johto region. You really gonna push me this far, Karen?
Outside a hidden base near Cyanwood, a small man in a white rocket uniform car looked crazed with rage. Before him stood an Umbreon and a snarling Houndoom.
Now.
No need to make it sound so dramatic, Lord Car. Karen tilted her head, hand on her hip, a playful smirk on her lips.
I'm not trying to kill you.
Just bow your head and admit I'm better, I'll even let you keep leading Johto's Team Rocket.
Sound fair?
Her tone dripped with mockery.
Ha! Like anyone should believe a word you say, Car spat back. She'd been hunting the Rocket 3 beasts for weeks. Now she finally cornered him like she'd let him go?
But he had his own trump card.
You really think today's your win, Karen? He grinned wide. Overhead, a dark cloud began to roll in, crackling with blue lightning.
A chilling pressure swept in. Karen frowned.
Something felt wrong. Footsteps echoed behind her.
She turned, and her eyes widened in shock. A blood-red-haired man in a cape strode toward her.
Lance, the dragon champion of Kanto. What? Why's Lance here? Karen's mind raced.
She shot a furious glare at Car. That bastard must have leaked her location.
Keep laughing, Karen. Car cackled. Enjoy your last moment of pride. Lance, I'm no longer with Team Rocket. Karen's expression twisted.
Now wasn't the time to fight Car. She faced Lance with steel in her voice.
Where is Giovanni? Lance asked flatly, his tone devoid of emotion. I don't know. After Saffron, we went our separate ways, she replied. A deafening roar echoed as a massive black dragon descended from the clouds, electricity crackling in the sky. The dragon of ideals, Zekrom. Karen's breath caught. Lance had caught Zekrom? I'll ask again, where is he?
Lance's voice turned frigid.
Zekrom's tail turbine lit up, and an oppressive aura filled the air. Sweat beaded on Karen's brow. That killing intent wasn't a bluff, Lance was serious. She didn't even know where Giovanni was. And even if she did, handing him over wouldn't guarantee her life. Everyone knew Lance's ruthlessness, especially now.
He was more extreme than ever.
What now?
Hands behind her back, she frantically tapped a hidden distress beacon.
Boss, save me.
She'd originally prepared it in case Giovanni came after her.
Who knew she'd need it for Lance? Zekrom.
Lance gave the command coldly. Zekrom began charging thunder, a massive lightning strike. But just then, a blizzard of snow and ice blasted in from afar, aimed straight at Zekrom.
Zekrom sensed the danger and turned, unleashing thunder in response. Boom! The blizzard and thunder clashed violently, but then
the blizzard overpowered thunder and surged ahead.
Zekrom had to ascend to avoid the oncoming frost. Lance frowned. Someone who could overpower Zekrom's thunder?
But when he saw the Pokémon flying toward them, even Lance looked stunned.
A red and white bird Pokémon, familiar, too familiar. A Delibird? That blizzard just now came from a Delibird?
Lance suddenly felt like the whole world had gone mad.
Chapter 306, Psychic Type.
Looking at that incoming Delibird, Lance felt his worldview shatter, completely and utterly shattered. Before the Saffron City incident, Lance had always believed his dragon army was unmatched under the heavens. He had decided long ago he would wipe out Team Rocket. Born in Viridian Forest, a man naturally blessed by its energies, Lance was inherently close to nature in Pokémon.
He possessed a natural healing gift, Nature's Chosen.
And Lance had always embraced that as his mission. He loved both nature and Pokémon, and he had always hoped the world could become a better place. But the world was never clean. Where there is light, there is shadow.
After becoming champion of Kanto, Lance saw this even more clearly.
Especially when it came to Team Rocket. He had once infiltrated one of their bases and saw an EV, barely clinging to life from cruel gene experiments, and even a Rattata with 3 heads. Lance burned that entire base to the ground. That day, he understood evil cannot be saved. But to destroy evil, power was essential. Lance firmly believed that no evil could escape before his dragons. He had always thought his strength had already reached the peak of champion level. Even against legendary Pokémon, his dragon army would not flinch. After all, he'd been at champion level for so many years. No matter how much he trained, he couldn't break through. The only option was to raise new dragons to expand his strength. Lance had once believed that the champion tier was the final limit for trainers. But was that really enough? He used to think so. Even Team Rocket's boss didn't seem beyond his reach. But during the Saffron City incident, Lance realized one thing. The champion level was certainly powerful, but still not enough. Why couldn't he take down Team Rocket's boss that day? Because the man had Mute-Wo. And that blue-haired man? He'd rampaged freely with a Mega Rayquaza and shiny Mute-Wo Y. So Lance made up his mind. He, too, would have a legendary Pokémon. Thus, he obtained the Dragon of Ideals, Zekrom, from N. Zekrom was immensely powerful. Lance was fully aware that even his ace Dragonite or Giant Dragonite wouldn't be able to win in a one-on-one against it. But now? This is impossible. Lance's cold, proud expression twisted slightly as he stared at the seemingly ordinary Delibird. How could this be? A Pokémon known only for delivering mail and newspapers was suppressing Zekrom? Why were Delibirds used as mail carriers in the first place? Because they were weak, no trainer would ever consider raising one as their ace. And yet, just now, this Delibird's blizzard had forcefully suppressed Zekrom's thunder. Zekrom, Fusion Bolt. Lance's expression twitched uncontrollably, eyes burning with disbelief and wild excitement. He couldn't believe it. But if it was real? What did that mean? Zekrom's tail turbine flared with lightning as blue electrical energy surged around it in a circular field, launching it toward the Delibird. Fusion Bolt. Delibird opened its beak and fired a freezing light. An icy wall took shape in midair. An ice wall, to stop Zekrom's charge? Ridiculous. Lance stared intently. Normally, he'd scoff, but now he hesitated. What if? Boom! Zekrom's fusion bolt crashed into the ice wall. Lightning surged wildly, slamming over and over again into the frosted barrier. But the shocking thing? That clear, glistening ice wall held firm.
It completely blocked Zekrum's fusion bolt. Heh, he. Seeing this, Lance didn't show disappointment.
On the contrary, he grinned and his laughter grew louder.
Ha 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 ha.
His blood-red hair whipped wildly in the wind.
Lance's ecstatic, unrestrained laughter echoed far into the distance.
Now he was sure the champion level wasn't the limit.
Even at peak champion level, a Delibird shouldn't be able to block Zekrum's fusion bolt so effortlessly.
There was only one explanation: this was the ace Pokemon of a trainer above the champion level.
Boss is here. Karen let out a relieved breath.
Without a doubt, this Delibird had to belong to the boss. As expected, the boss was terrifying.
Karen clicked her tongue, staring at the Delibird. It had blocked Zekrum's full-force charge like it was nothing.
But with the boss here, she could finally retreat safely.
Though before that,
a cold glint flashed in her eyes. She turned her head and, as expected, Carr, that sly little rat, had already slipped away.
That bastard.
Next time she saw him, she'd make sure to finish him off.
Hiding like a coward. What kind of strength is that? You dare interfere with me, but not show yourself in person?
Lance's voice was fervent and eerily cold as he stared in the direction the Delibird had come from.
He had no time to deal with Karen right now. His full attention was on this absurdly powerful Delibird, or rather, its trainer. A trainer beyond champion level? A grandmaster? An elite among elites? But even after waiting, no response came. Only silence. Lance let out a cold laugh.
Then I'll just beat this Delibird first. He stared at it. Based on their brief exchange, it was clearly strong.
But he was Lance, Dragon Master of Kanto.
And now he had Zekrom.
Would he really lose to a mere Delibird? He would win. Alola region. With everything handled, Dylan decided it was time to return to Kanto. Gladion had already been found and brought back to Ether Paradise.
After leaving, he had been training alone to grow stronger, even joining Team Skull to hone himself.
When he heard Luzaman had recovered, Gladion didn't believe it at first. But with Lily's reassurance, he came home.
Professor Kukui had also called. President Charles of the Kanto League had officially approved the founding of the Alola League. This was an enormous boost for the Alola region. But it had nothing to do with Dylan anymore.
He, Leaf, and Lily had already booked their tickets back.
Originally, Dylan had hoped Lily would stay in Alola a little longer. After all, it was a rare chance to reunite with family. But Lily felt that the past few days had been enough. Luzaman was about to dive into league matters and wouldn't have time to spend with her.
Gladion, too, was heading out to train again.
By comparison, she just wanted to stay by her brother's side.
After all, the Rhoda Gym was her home too.
Their plane landed in Viridian City. From there, the trio flew back to Rhoda Street on Reshiram's back.
Big bro gym leader, you're back.
As soon as they entered the Rhoda Gym, they saw Asha lying on a lounge chair scrolling through her phone.
No sign of Silver or Yellow, probably out back.
She lit up when she saw them.
Didn't go shopping with Yellow and the others? Dylan asked with a chuckle. I did. Yellow and I went to Viridian Forest. Oh, and some people came looking for you yesterday, she added, blinking. Did they leave a name? They said they're from Unova. The boy's name was Hugh. Hugh, huh? Dylan raised an eyebrow.
It had been a while since their promise. Looks like that kid had finally fulfilled his end.
Not bad.
So gym leader bro does know him.
Since you weren't around, I told them to come back in a few days. Got it. Dylan nodded and headed toward the backyard. The Indigo Conference starts in half a month. Dylan, should we go check it out? Leaf asked, bouncing with interest.
The Indigo Conference was Kanto's biggest regional tournament, where trainers who'd earned 8 badges competed for victory. Not much to see in the early rounds. Let's wait for the finals, Dylan said after a pause. In the anime, the Indigo Conference had been like a beginner's cup.
Nothing much to watch. Or, maybe not? He thought again.
After all, his Rota gym had done a lot this year to support up-and-coming Kanto trainers.
Maybe the competitors this year would be different.
True. But I'm guessing the finals will be red versus blue, Leaf mused.
Yeah, probably. Dylan shrugged, there weren't many other likely outcomes.
In the backyard, Dylan released all his Pokemon to relax and play. He lay back on a picnic mat, using a pillow behind his head, gazing at the blue sky.
A psychic-type team build, huh? Dylan thought aloud, starting to plan out a psychic team. NDD is a must. A female one's better for gym battles.
Because NDD had the hidden ability Psychic Surge, which automatically sets psychic terrain upon entry. Though it was more suited for doubles, for a psychic team, it was indispensable. A female Gardevoir is also essential.
If I can get a shiny one, even better. Psychic and fairy types?
Gardevoir was the obvious choice.
Beautiful and strong. Perfect.
Also Hatterene could work. And Metagross as a physical attacker makes a solid addition.
Dylan reviewed the psychic types he owned.
None were exactly simple. Metagross, Screamtail, Farigiraf, and Iron Leaves, the future form of Virizion from the Swords of Justice line. But those weren't suitable for average challengers.
Chapter 307, The Man I Admire Most.
The Rota Gym had reopened, though the number of challengers had dropped sharply. After all, regional tournaments across the world were about to begin, and most trainers had already headed to the host cities to prepare. In fact, many other gyms had already closed for a break. The regional tournament season was the only time in the year gym leaders could officially and guiltlessly take time off. All the gym leaders saw this as a chance to finally relax.
Dylan didn't particularly care.
He gave himself plenty of downtime throughout the year anyway. The morning after returning to the gym, Dylan lounged in the backyard, basking in the sun while on a call.
Well now, a rare guest. What brings you to call me, Giovanni? Dylan said lazily. That's right, the caller was none other than Giovanni. Heh, sounds like you're in good spirits, Dylan. Giovanni's smooth, magnetic voice came through evenly. Can't complain. How about you, still in Johto? Still no leads. Giovanni sighed.
After visiting a pharmacy in Cerulean City to refill some medication, he'd been searching nonstop for silver but found nothing.
Though things have gotten a bit tense lately. Dylan, your buddy Lance is making a mess of things in Johto, Giovanni said, a touch of amusement in his voice. Oh? Dylan raised a brow.
Lance has been prowling around Johto, digging up every lead he can find.
Looking for you, I assume, Dylan chuckled. No doubt Lance was hunting for Giovanni's trail.
While Team Rocket had been crushed in Kanto, their Johto branch still had some presence. To Lance, it only made sense that their boss had fled there to rebuild.
Not a wrong assumption, just an outdated one. Lance likely didn't realize Giovanni had no intention of leading Team Rocket anymore. Correct. Giovanni admitted without hesitation. The feud between him and Lance ran deep. Johto's Team Rocket is in a tight spot.
Lance is purging them in search of me, and Karen is rallying the rest.
Giovanni mused, uncertain of Karen's true motives. Why was she trying to consolidate control of the team? There had to be a reason. She's backed by the masked organization. They're getting impatient.
So you do know, Giovanni's eyes glinted.
He'd already suspected that the people behind Karen might be the same ones who abducted Silver years ago.
She's with the masked organization, and the waters run deep.
Giovanni, take my advice, stay far away.
Even if Mutwo sides with you, you're no match for the leader of that group.
Dylan warned him plainly. The strength of that old monster Guyu wasn't something to underestimate. I see. Giovanni frowned slightly.
Actually, you didn't need to warn me, I saw it for myself yesterday.
What do you mean? Dylan's expression shifted. Yesterday, near Cyanwood Town, Lance found Karen.
And he had Zekrom with him.
Giovanni's tone grew serious. So he really did obtain the Black Dragon.
Dylan was surprised, but not that surprised. With Lance's natural talent and ideals, it wasn't odd that Zekrom had chosen him.
His aspirations were grander, and far more grounded, than N's ever were. But what about Zekrom's loyalty to N?
No, Dylan figured N must have voluntarily relinquished Zekrom.
A legendary dragon god wouldn't be so fickle. Even Reshiram wouldn't abandon its hero like that, much less Zekrom.
After all, N did the same in Black and White too, returning Zekrom to stone and entrusting it to the protagonist.
Because N was selfless. Truly selfless. Right. But his Zekrom got defeated. Giovanni's voice turned odd. Dylan immediately understood. Near Cyanwood? If Lance's Zekrom lost, the culprit was obvious.
That trainer never showed up, but a single Delibird defeated Zekrom.
It was terrifying. Giovanni couldn't help but sigh. That was the dragon of ideals, Zekrom under Lance's command, no less.
Lance was a much stronger trainer than N, so Zekrom should have been at its peak.
And yet it lost to a Delibird wielding impossibly sharp ice-type moves.
I never thought Johto would be hiding such a powerhouse. Not a whisper of their name until now.
The world's big. Not all that strange. Dylan offered a moment of silence for his senior, Lance.
He just obtained Zekrom and was eager to reclaim glory by confronting Team Rocket's leader, only to run headfirst into a hidden final boss.
Still, I imagine we'll be seeing quite a show soon. Dylan, just wait, Giovanni said meaningfully before ending the call. Dylan didn't follow up. Giovanni had little interest in causing trouble these days, but if it involved Lance, he might not let the opportunity slip by. Dylan could already guess what he was planning. Big bro gym leader, those people are back again. Hearing Asha's voice over the comms, Dylan tidied himself and headed inside the gym. Well, if it isn't Kieran and company.
Lily blinked curiously at the three people waiting, Kieran, Carmine, and Lacey.
That's right, Lacey had come too. Lily's eyes focused on Kieran.
Compared to before, the boy had changed significantly. His eyes, his presence, much calmer, more confident.
Clearly, he'd matured. Long time no see, Lily. Lacey smiled with squinted eyes and gave a small wave. It's been a while. Lily returned the smile warmly. Hang on, my brother will be out soon. Kieran, did you really become the Blueberry Academy champion? Lily asked, curious. She remembered the deal Dylan had made with Kieran.
If Kieran became the champion of Blueberry Academy before year's end, he could come to Kanto and challenge Dylan.
Yes. I didn't let Mr. Dylan down. Kieran smiled brightly.
He's been incredible, Lacey added.
Training and battling non-stop, he's improved so fast. He beat Drayton just days ago and became champion of the Blueberry League.
She sounded impressed, and with good reason.
She had underestimated Kieran before. His potential was far beyond what she imagined.
In just 6 months, he had become the Academy's strongest. But there was no jealousy in her voice. She knew his growth came from tireless work, driven by their trip to Kitakami and Dylan's expectations. Since returning, she'd kept an eye on him and saw how Kieran pushed himself every day.
If he wasn't eating, he was training or battling. With effort like that, his growth wasn't luck, it was inevitable. Even talks to me less than before, Carmine added half-jokingly, though her tone was a bit conflicted. She never expected Kieran to make it. The little brother who once trailed behind her now stood far above. This was a man's promise between me and Mr. Dylan. I had to fulfill it. Kieran shook his head resolutely. Clap, clap. Applause echoed from behind them. Kieran turned, eyes lighting up. Mr. Dylan.
Lacey's eyes lit up too as she smiled at the man walking over.
It's been a while, Miss Lacey, Dylan greeted her with a soft smile, then turned to Kieran.
Your eyes have grown sharp, your spirit steadier.
Kieran, you didn't disappoint me.
He patted Kieran's shoulder, pleased beyond words.
I knew I wasn't wrong about you. You really did it. Yes. Thank you for your belief and guidance, Kiran said emotionally, voice filled with gratitude.
He knew his progress came from effort, but without Dylan's support and belief, he might not have come this far. Dylan gave him something even more important than strength, a clear goal and the will to chase it relentlessly.
So Kiran, you're here to challenge my gym, aren't you? Dylan smiled. Yes. I want to battle you. Kiran's expression turned serious. Good. Then let me see what you're capable of. Dylan led him over to the roulette board.
I'll be using Ogerpon to face you, but first, let's see if you can even beat my other team members.
Give it a spin. Let's see what type you land on.
This was the promise Dylan had made. When Kiran came to challenge him, he would face Ogerpon, but first, he had to prove he was worthy.
Kiran nodded. Of course he knew the rules of the Rota gym. He pressed the button, and the roulette wheel began spinning at high speed. Carmine and Lacey both watched intently.
Lacey in particular felt her scalp prickle when she saw that narrow gold sliver on the wheel.
Now she understood why Dylan hadn't wanted to include the Golden Legendary Team option. It was completely unfair. Soon, the pointer stopped on the snowflake icon Ice Type. Ice Type team, huh?
Carmine thought for a moment.
Not bad, considering Kiran's team was multi-type. Let's go then, Kiran. Dylan and Kiran moved to their respective positions on the battlefield. Now commencing the official Rota Gym Challenge.
Challenger, Kiran from Kitakami, Leaf, acting as the referee, announced.
Battle format is 6 vs 6, full team match. Gym leader Dylan sends out first and may not switch Pokemon. The battle is won when all 6 of Dylan's Pokemon are defeated. Battle, begin. Leaf stepped back from the field.
The scoreboard lit up with Dylan and Kiran's portraits.
Kiran took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves, but it wasn't easy.
Staring at the man in black across from him, Kiran's eyes trembled slightly.
Dylan of Rota Gym. The man he had always looked up to.
And now, he was standing across from him at last.
Kiran's heart pounded, each beat loud and strong in his chest. Mr. Dylan. I've come. Chapter 308, Feel the Fury of a Frozen Winter.
I wonder if Kiran can actually beat Mr. Dylan, Carmine murmured nervously in the spectator stands, though her tone carried a trace of hope.
Sure, she knew Mr. Dylan was absurdly strong. But Kiran was the strongest in Blueberry Academy now, wasn't he?
And this was a gym battle, where the rules naturally favored the challenger.
Beat Mr. Dylan?
That's super hard, Lacey said, glancing sideways at Carmine.
Or maybe not just hard, more like near impossible. This was Dylan they were talking about.
Even if he wasn't going full power in a gym setting, Dylan would still be a terrifying opponent.
On the battlefield.
Kiran, since this is your first time challenging my Rota gym, allow me to properly introduce myself, Dylan said, loosening the collar of his shirt and fixing his calm gaze on Kiran.
My name is Dylan. I am the leader of the Rota gym and a multi-type trainer.
But today, I'll be using an Ice-type team against you.
Tell me, Kiran, how well do you understand Ice-type Pokemon? They're cold and powerful.
No matter what kind of opponent they face, when the frigid chill that freezes the sky descends, nothing can stand in their way. With a graceful motion, Dylan slipped on a pair of black gloves.
A minimized pokeball spun between his fingers and expanded. Kiran, come and experience it for yourself. The ruthless, biting force of winter. My first Pokemon is this.
He threw the Ultra Ball in a smooth arc, and with a flash of light, a stunning, elegant ice blue fox landed softly in front of him.
Alolan Ninetales. BZZT Ninetales, Alolan form, Ice/Fairy type, the fox Pokemon. Ability, Snow Warning. Moves.
Aurora Veil, Freeze Dry, Nasty Plot, Mist, Blizzard, Baton Pass, Moonblast.
Entry, lives on snowy mountaintops covered in ice for millennia.
Worshipped as a deity's incarnation. Appears during blizzards.
Alolan form.
So beautiful, Lacey's eyes lit up, locked on the Ninetales in the arena. As a fairy-type specialist, she adored Alolan Ninetales.
Especially now, the seductive ice fox lounged with one leg extended, tail swishing lazily.
It was almost too mesmerizing. If this is an ice-type team, then that Ninetales must have snow warning, Kieran noted, eyes flashing with calculation.
He coolly tossed a pokeball of his own. He was now a legitimate champion-level trainer.
Still fresh, sure, but seasoned by daily battles.
Politoed, let's go. A greenish-blue frog Pokemon landed upright in front of him, Politoed. BZZT Politoed, Water-type, the frog Pokemon.
Ability, Drizzle.
Moves, Earth Power, Hyper Voice, Perish Song, Hydro Cannon, Ice Beam, Weather Ball. Entry, the spiral curl on its head is a mark of royalty.
The longer and collier, the more respected commands.
He's using Politoed?
Trying to take control of the weather, Yellow commented from the sidelines.
She wasn't a complete novice anymore. Dylan also had a Politoed in his own arsenal, though he rarely used it nowadays. Without pivoting moves like Pelipper, it was a bit less flexible.
Still, if switching were allowed, Politoed could serve as both weather setter and combatant. Ninetales, Dylan said softly.
The fox let out a long, melodic cry.
Dark clouds swirled in as thick snow began to fall in large, white flakes absolutely picturesque.
Snow warning, changes the weather to snow. In snow, ice-type Pokemon receive a defense boost.
As of Gen 9, hail is no more, good riddance. Beneath the snow, the Alolan Ninetales looked even more ethereal. The temperature dropped noticeably.
Politoed, replace it. Kieran commanded. Politoed clapped rhythmically, blue light glowing on its skin. The snowflakes slowed and faded. Drip drop.
Rain poured down, casting a gray haze over the battlefield.
Drizzle activated.
Later entries have the weather favor the most recently sent out Pokemon, making weather wars about proper timing.
Good.
You know to neutralize my weather first, Dylan said, clearly pleased.
But Kieran, my weather setters aren't limited to one. Dylan smiled faintly. Kieran blinked. Ninetales, Baton Pass.
White light wrapped around the fox as it returned to its ball.
Dylan immediately threw another Ultra Ball. A second, slightly larger Alolan Ninetales took its place. Kieran's jaw dropped. Another Alolan Ninetales? This was a 6-on-6 full battle and Dylan had brought 2 weather setters? Ninetales. Oh. Another cry echoed across the field.
The rain faded, and snow returned, snow warning triggered again.
Kieran said nothing.
He only had one Politoed with Drizzle. There was no way he could win a weather war against 2 elegant foxes.
Oh well. Might as well see how Dylan's ice team performs in full snow conditions. Kieran, your move. Challenger takes the first strike. Dylan gestured calmly. Then I'll make it count, Mr. Dylan. Kieran snapped his order. Politoed, Earth Power. The frog bounced forward, and ochre energy lit up beneath Ninetales' feet. Dodge. The fox leapt high and gracefully into the air. Boom.
A tremor shook the battlefield, but missed. Ninetales wasn't strong offensively, but its speed was formidable.
Aurora Veil. The fox landed and raised its head in a long howl. Earth Power again. Kieran's eyes sharpened. The ground glowed again under the fox. This time, it didn't move.
Above, a beautiful aurora shimmered across the sky. But the Earth Power hit.
Boom!
The Ninetales let out a pained cry as the energy exploded underneath it.
Solid damage.
But at the same time, Aurora Veil wrapped around its body a shimmering, rainbow-hued shield that halved all incoming damage during snowy weather.
Baton Pass. The fox vanished in white light again, returning to its ball. Frosmoth, get ready. Dylan threw his third Pokeball.
A gorgeous, snow-white moth hovered above the field, gazing down at Politoed with deep sapphire eyes. The aurora light fell softly on its wings, dreamlike, serene.
Wow, what a beautiful Frosmoth! Lacey gasped.
It had a flawless white body, deep gem-like blue eyes, a blue diamond on its forehead, feather-like antennae, and translucent wings adorned with snowflake-like patterns.
BZZT Frostmoth, Ice/Bug type, the Frost Moth Pokemon. Ability, Ice Scales. Moves, Quiver Dance, Tailwind, Blizzard, Bug Buzz, Aurora Beam, Weather Ball, U-Turn. Looked powerful too. Ice/Bug, that's 4x weak to rock and fire, Kieran recalled. Frostmoth's main weaknesses were glaring, but with Aurora Veil, a lot of damage could be reduced. Let's test its strength. Kieran hesitated. Politoed knew Brick Break, which could remove Aurora Veil, but it had to hit. Politoed Hydro Cannon. No resistance here. Water hit neutrally. Blizzard, Dylan said with a soft smile. Politoed unleashed a massive stream of water. Frostmoth's wings snapped open, and a frigid blizzard roared forth, biting cold and swirling snow engulfing the battlefield. The peaceful snowfall turned savage, the wind howled, snow whipping in every direction. The blizzard and hydro cannon met mid-air. Crack, snap. The water beam began freezing, ice racing along it toward Politoed. The blizzard shrieked like a raging beast. Politoed. Kieran's pupils shrank. The hydro cannon froze rapidly, and ice surged down the beam toward Politoed. Sensing danger, Politoed tried to cancel the move and retreat. But it was too late. The blizzard came too fast, too wide. The world turned white. Even in the stands, Lily and the others hugged themselves as the cold cut deep. "Whoa, what a blizzard!" Carmine exclaimed, shivering. Under snow, blizzard becomes faster and wider. Politoed definitely got hit. But the damage shouldn't be too bad, Lacey analyzed. Politoed had solid special defense and water-resisted ice. So the hit shouldn't hurt too much. Yeah. Kieran probably just wanted to test Frostmoth's strength, and it's definitely strong, Carmine said, watching the calm, floating moth. Elegant and noble, Frostmoth's beauty was on another level. But, Lacey started to speak, then paused. On the snow-covered battlefield stood an ice crystal, and inside it, Politoed. Frozen? Kieran's entire body stiffened. Blizzard can freeze, but the chance is low. Looks like luck isn't on your side, Kieran, Dylan said, raising an eyebrow. He hadn't expected it either, freezing was rare. Kieran fell silent. In frozen status, Politoed couldn't act, it was completely vulnerable. But this makes for a good opportunity. Dylan chuckled. Giga Drain. Frostmoth's wings glowed green, a grass-type move. Return, Politoed. Kieran quickly recalled it. Giga Drain was super effective. Incineroar. With a sharp cry, the flaming heel wrestler crashed onto the field. Big Bro Tiger ready for action. Incineroar again. Chapter 309, as expected. Incineroar, there was no need to say much. Dylan had one, Celine had one, Kukui had one, and now Kieran had one too. Not to mention the wave of trainers who, ever since Dylan's Incineroar became famous, flocked to Alola just to find a Litten of their own. As soon as Incineroar entered the field, it let out a low, threatening growl at Frostmoth. An aura of dominance radiated from it. Intimidate. A white light shimmered around Frostmoth, it had its physical attack lowered by 1 stage. Not that it mattered much. Frostmoth was a special attacker through and through. Bug Buzz. Dylan narrowed his eyes slightly. If he remembered right, Kieran's Incineroar knew Fake Out. Frostmoth was a poor match into Incineroar, being 4x weak to fire. Honestly, it was lucky Incineroar was also part dark, otherwise it would resist bug moves too. Frostmoth's wings started to hum rapidly, preparing the bug-type attack. Fake Out. Kieran called, just as expected. Incineroar lunged forward, its broad form slicing through the snowy battlefield like a red streak. Priority move, Fake Out. In a blink, it was beneath Frostmoth, its paw slammed upward. Frostmoth's shimmering Aurora Veil pulsed. Smack! The attack landed clean. Frostmoth gave a sharp cry, flinching back, the fake-out had done its job. Flamethrower. Kirin didn't hesitate. He knew the combo well.
If Incineroar weren't falling from the air at that moment, he might have gone with Flare Blitz for maximum impact.
As Incineroar descended, flames erupted from its jaws. A blazing pillar tore through the snow, crashing into Frosmoth.
The Aurora Veil shimmered again, having the damage.
And thanks to its Ice Scales ability, Frosmoth took even less from special attacks. Combined with its decent special defense, the hit was manageable.
Aurora Veil's damage reduction is insane, and then there's Ice Scales on top.
Carmine frowned. That combo had neutered what should have been a devastating follow-up.
Not to mention, Mr. Dillon's counterattack is coming, Lacey noted, eyes flicking toward the dying fire.
Bug Buzz! Dillon commanded. Frosmoth forced itself to endure the flames. Its majestic snowflake wings pulsed, bright rings of sound exploded outward, shattering the lingering blaze. Bzzzzzzz. The wave of sound barreled toward Incineroar, who had just landed. A swift counter. Fire punch.
Incineroar roared, its paw bursting into flames as it punched toward the oncoming sound waves.
Boom. Fire met sound in midair, but Incineroar's face twisted.
It had forced the punch, but the bug buzz was too powerful.
Flames shattered, and the sonic wave slammed into Incineroar, making it growl in pain. That special attack power is no joke. Kirin looked at the elegant muff. This icy beauty's SPATK stat had to be on par with Volcarona. Dillon had trained it extremely well.
The snow's about to end.
Kirin glanced upward. The snowy clouds were thinning.
No snow meant Aurora Veil would vanish soon.
Close in, Bug Buzz, Dillon said calmly. Frosmoth lowered slightly, wings humming again.
The sound waves shimmered like ripples toward Incineroar.
Flame charge. Kirin gave the order. Fire-type flame charge, a move that raised speed every time it landed.
Incineroar burst into flames and charged through the snow, trying to avoid the attack, but it wasn't fast enough yet.
Boom! The bug buzz caught up, slamming into Incineroar's back. The big cat roared in pain, its body sent flying. That bug buzz had been even faster than before. Kirin was sure of it, no way Incineroar should have been hit otherwise. Above, the clouds finally broke. The snow ended. Another bug buzz. Protect!
There was no escaping, Incineroar had just been hit.
It couldn't dodge. Waves of sound surged forward.
Incineroar braced, forming a green shield just in time.
The sound exploded against the barrier but couldn't break through. Flare Blitz. Dazzling gleam.
As the shield faded, Incineroar let out a furious roar, igniting in red-hot flames.
Flare Blitz, a reckless, full-power fire move. It launched toward the airborne Frosmoth with all its might. Frosmoth rose higher, pink light flickering around its body. Fairy-type Dazzling Gleam, a beautiful beam of light shot toward Incineroar. But Flare Blitz tore through it. Incineroar's brute strength burned right through the beam. Still, it couldn't fly. And it wasn't fast enough. Frosmoth outpaced it easily with its wings. Incineroar's nearly spent. Lily murmured. The tiger's speed was dropping, it was already starting to fall. Bug Buzz. Dillon's eyes glinted. He glanced briefly at Kirin's focused expression, then gave the order. He wasn't too keen on striking right now, Incineroar could still retaliate. But hey, it was a gym battle, not a deathmatch. A little mercy wouldn't hurt. Frosmoth descended a bit, hovering just above Incineroar's range.
It hummed again, sending another wave of sound pulsing outward.
Fire blast. Kirin was waiting for this. Incineroar roared.
Flames erupted from its belt, forming the shape of a massive kanji character 4 big.
Fire blast. Boom. Frosmoth's bug buzz landed, sending Incineroar tumbling, but the fire blast struck back. Frosmoth's wings glimmered, it activated ice scales, having special damage.
A move that should have been 4x super effective instead only hit for 2x, and Frosmoth, while clearly injured, held on.
Kieran's frown deepened. That wasn't worth it. Incineroar hit the ground, its breath labored.
It had taken 3 bug buzzes.
Even though they weren't super effective, Frosmoth's raw power was too high. Return, Incineroar. Kieran hesitated, then recalled the tiger. Intimidate was too valuable to waste. He didn't want to lose it here. He couldn't afford for Frosmoth to take it down. Grimmsnarl. Kieran tossed his third Pokeball.
A hulking, hairy Pokemon landed in front of him, its body covered in long fur, with sharp fangs and pointed ears.
Grimmsnarl. BZZT Grimmsnarl, Dark/Fairy type, the bulk-up Pokemon. Ability, Prankster.
Moves, Hammer Arm, Foul Play, Play Rough, Nasty Plot, Spirit Break, Fake Out, Sucker Punch.
Grimmsnarl, ha! Leaf-eyed Kieran curiously.
Despite his clean appearance, his team choices were bold.
Incineroar and Grimmsnarl? Very bro energy. As expected from a boy Dylan personally believed in. Plenty of promise. Grimmsnarl?
Not bad, Dylan said, giving the Pokemon a once-over.
Solid choice. Thank you for the praise, Mr. Dylan. Now, let's keep going.
Kieran grinned, clearly pleased to be acknowledged, but focused on the battle.
Grimmsnarl, Fake Out.
The goblins snarled and rushed forward.
Frosmoth tried to retreat, but Grimmsnarl was too fast.
Its claws slammed down, Fake Out connected clean.
Frosmoth cried out and flinched, driven back. Now, burning jealousy. Grimmsnarl descended, its body flaring with flames before blasting a fiery shockwave toward Frosmoth. Frosmoth's ice scales shimmered, but the hit was still powerful.
It was thrown back, crashing into the ground. Its icy wings glistened, but its eyes had turned into spirals.
Frosmoth is unable to battle. Grimmsnarl wins, Leaf declared from the field.
From Politoed, to Incineroar, to Grimmsnarl, it had taken 3 to do it, but Kieran had finally taken down Frosmoth. He exhaled, a smile spreading on his face.
Nice one, Kieran. First win secured.
Carmine pumped her fist, cheering her brother on.
True. Cost him a bit, but taking down one of Dylan's team is still big, Lacey said with a smile, though deep down, she knew Kieran didn't hold the advantage yet.
Politoed had been frozen, Incineroar heavily wounded, and that had only been Dylan's first main attacker.
On the field. Well done, Kieran.
That was a solid takedown, Dylan said, withdrawing Frosmoth. His tone remained gentle, full of praise. He quickly sent out another ball. Alolan Ninetales appeared again, its cry ringing through the field. Snow began to fall once more.
Will he use Aurora Veil again? Kieran eyed the stunning fox.
He couldn't stop the weather change, his Politoed was still frozen.
But would Dylan go for the screen again? Baton pass. Grimmsnarl bulk up. Kieran didn't waste time. He couldn't stop Ninetales' retreat, but he could at least use the opportunity to set up. Grimmsnarl roared, striking a few flexing poses. Its body swelled with power. TCH. Dylan chuckled inwardly.
Smart plays, as always. Ninetales vanished in white light.
Dylan tossed another Ultra Ball.
Then Kieran, your next opponent, is this one.
He tossed his 4th Pokemon. Weevil, ready for battle. Chapter 310, It's So Strong. Weevil, battle ready. Dylan flicked out his 4th Pokeball.
With a flash of light, a sleek Pokemon landed lightly in front of him, a mix of feline and weasel features, a cruel, cunning smile curving its lips. Its twin claws gleamed with an icy sheen, and a crimson feathered crown flared from its head.
An oval golden gem adorned its forehead. The evolved form of Sneasel Weevil. BZZT Weevil, Dark/Ice type, Sharp Claw Pokemon. Ability, Pressure. Moves, Dark Pulse, Night Slash, Hone Claws, Fake Out, Icicle Crash, Avalanche, Triple Axle. Dex entry, after evolving, it becomes even more devious. It leaves marks on stones with its claws to communicate with allies. This Weevil looked terrifyingly strong. Carmine read the data, then frowned. Weevil's 4x weak to fighting, and 2x weak to fairy. Dylan was going in with a type disadvantage? Grimmsnarl wasn't just a support with status moves, it was a powerhouse in close combat. Prankster doesn't work on dark types.
That's probably why Mr. Dylan sent it out, Lacey mused, tapping her chin.
That was Grimmsnarl's biggest headache, status moves powered by Prankster. But against dark types? Completely useless. On the field. Weevil, huh? Kieran studied its menacing aura.
You'd better be careful, Dylan said with a chuckle.
My Weevil hits hard. Yes, sir. Kieran nodded with focus. Fake out.
Weevil bared its fangs and lunged, black and red blur zipping across the field.
Grimmsnarl. Kieran called. He used this move often, he knew its speed. There was no dodging it. Grimmsnarl crossed its arms defensively. Slice. In an instant, Weevil was right in its face. Its claw struck Grimmsnarl square across the mask-like face. Perfect hit. Grimmsnarl grunted, staggering back, stunned. Ice punch. Weevil's right claw glowed cold blue, it slammed into Grimmsnarl's gut. Frost exploded outward. Grimmsnarl roared. It wasn't super effective, but it still hurt. Grimmsnarl's physical defense wasn't amazing, even with a bulk up earlier. Triple axle. Weevil skated forward, feet gliding smoothly across the terrain, eyes locked onto Grimmsnarl with icy precision, studying, waiting for the perfect strike. Hammer arm. Kieran snapped.
Grimmsnarl growled, raising glowing fists for the fighting type attack, deadly against ice types.
Weevil ducked and slid beneath the blow with grace, dodging the hammer arm easily. Then bam! A spinning kick hit Grimmsnarl squarely. First hit, triple axle. Frost burst outward. Grimmsnarl growled. Hammer arm again.
Another heavy swing came crashing down, but Weevil pirouetted out of the way with another graceful slide.
Second kick, twice the power. Frost blasted across Grimmsnarl's chest.
The impact shoved it back several paces.
Triple axle's second strike. Double the force of the first. Spirit break. Kieran shouted.
Grimmsnarl's body surged with pink light. It charged, the fairy-type move powering up only for Weevil to twist in midair, riding the force of the previous kick. And land a third crushing strike to Grimmsnarl's temple.
Triple axle's third hit. Wham! A heavy thud echoed. Grimmsnarl was flung backward, tumbling across the field, spirit break completely interrupted. Carmine gaped. Wah! Lacey's eyes lit up. That was beautiful. So clean, so fluid. Flawless execution. Weevil's triple axle had looked like a choreographed performance, fast, elegant, brutal.
The calm confidence it carried only made it more impressive. Despite the typing disadvantage, it felt like Grimmsnarl was the one outmatched.
Kieran frowned deeply. This wasn't looking good. Weevil icicle crash. Weevil snarled, charging in again.
Above Grimmsnarl, jagged spears of ice materialized.
Ice-type, icicle crash. Sucker punch. Kieran shouted. He couldn't let Grimmsnarl stay on the defensive, it needed to fight back.
Grimmsnarl lunged, dark energy flickering in its claws, rushing Weevil head-on.
But Weevil stopped suddenly, eyes glinting. Counter.
Its right claw blocked Grimmsnarl's strike cleanly, then its left slashed across Grimmsnarl's body in retaliation.
Kieran's eyes widened. No!
Counter, specifically designed to catch and punish priority moves like Sucker Punch. Grimmsnarl stumbled back, claws raised. Just in time for Weevil's right hook to slam into its jaw.
Ice Punch.
Frost surged over its lower face.
Grimmsnarl roared, flying backward. Icicle crash.
Weevil's claws sliced the air, icicles rained from above.
Boom, boom, boom.
They smashed down onto Grimmsnarl, burying it in glimmering shards.
A final crash echoed through the snowy arena. Grimmsnarl lay motionless beneath the rubble. Grimmsnarl is unable to battle. Weevil wins, Leaf declared.
On the scoreboard, Grimmsnarl's icon dimmed on Kieran's side.
So strong. Lacey stared in awe as Weevil calmly walked back to Dylan's side. Flawless, high-speed offense, textbook execution. Grimmsnarl didn't even land a hit, Carmine muttered, uneasy.
Despite the type advantage, despite a bulk up, it had been swept.
Completely untouched.
Big Bro's team is always like this, Lily said with a soft smile.
The deeper into his roster you go, the stronger they get. This Weevil is the most aggressive striker in his ice team.
If you don't restrict its mobility, you're in for a very rough time.
She was right. Dealing with speedy attackers meant one thing: control their movement.
If you let them move freely, they'd rip your team apart. But it can handle priority moves too, Carmine said with a grimace. Against fast attackers, you had 3 options: tank and counter, status moves, or priority attacks. But this Weevil had already shown it could handle fake out and sucker punch, counter-handled all of it. Even Kieran's own priority tactics had failed.
What's Kieran gonna do next? Lacey asked, eyes narrowing. Back on the field. As expected of you, Mr. Dillon. Kieran recalled Grimmsnarl.
That Pokemon had been one of his hardest hitters and it had been soloed without landing a blow. Kieran, come on, show me more, Dillon said with a warm smile, gesturing.
Yes, sir. Kieran took a breath, regaining his composure.
Politoed was still frozen, definitely not an option.
Dragonite? No way.
For times weak to ice, and extreme speed wouldn't work on Weevil.
Go, Incineroar. He sent it back in.
Incineroar landed with a roar, glaring at Weevil.
Its presence pressed outward like a storm. Intimidate. Weevil's attack fell by 1 stage. It hissed in annoyance.
That tiger again, it hated that smug, bulky, fire-breathing beast.
Dillon glanced at it.
The damage it had taken earlier was still showing.
Incineroar might have some fighting moves, but it wasn't ideal for fighting Weevil. Weevil, brick break.
Weevil crouched and darted in a blur on the field.
Watch it carefully, Incineroar. Kieran warned. Incineroar growled, eyes fixed on the incoming blur. Weevil drew closer. 10 meters, 5, 3. Taunt.
Incineroar grinned cruelly and struck a mocking pose, hands on hips, smirking with sharp teeth. Normal type taunt, meant to confuse and enrage, boosting attack but inflicting confusion.
I figured as much. Quick attack.
Weevil's speed surged. A burst of white energy shot past Incineroar before it could land the taunt.
Normal type quick attack, priority move. Taunt missed. Kieran's expression fell. Incineroar, he shouted.
The tiger tried to turn, but before it could fully pivot.
Crack. Weevil's claw smashed into the back of its head. Brick break. A brutal slash came down, Weevil's fighting move slamming into Incineroar's skull. Boom. Incineroar cried out and then slumped to the ground. Incineroar is unable to battle. Weevil wins again. Leaf announced the result.
Thanks, Kieran muttered, recalling the tiger.
He'd been outplayed.
Dillon had read him completely.
And Incineroar wasn't in good shape to begin with.
Kieran stared across the field at that Weevil, still grinning smugly.
He took a long breath, thinking hard. 2 Pokemon down, back to back. This was bad. No matter what happened, he had to take Weevil down. At the very least, he needed to see Ogerpon.
That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned.
Quick reminder. What If Natsu Had Dual Elements is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. I'd love to do another poll to decide our next project, but unfortunately, due to my travel plans, I won't be able to start a new series until the end of December if we go that route.
So instead, I've decided that the series which came in second place in the last poll will be our next project.
That means the series replacing What If Natsu Had Dual Elements will be What If Transmigrated into One Piece and Became a Marine?
Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.